Debbie, look how darling you are. We're so tickled you're with us.
I'm tickled to be here.
You are just a beauty. You get to finally meet my Karen Mills. Karen, you get to meet Debbie. I talk about you all the time. So
Yes,
you're all
you do.
meeting
And
in
vice
real life.
versa. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Debbie. I am thrilled to meet you, honey.
I'm so happy to meet you too, and I love that Chattanooga poster behind you.
Thank you.
She's all Chattanooga all the time. That's where she's at right now.
Chattaboogie, baby. If you know, you know.
That's right. Chattaboogie.
Best.
It's choo-choo up in here.
Choo-choo. I love that we have 3 Southern girls.
Yes, we do. Y'all, if you don't know Debbie Matenopoulos, well, hold on and buckle up. But you're from Roanoke. Is that right?
No,
Am I
my
right?
brother-in-law's from Roanoke. I'm from Richmond.
Richmond. I'm sorry. Richmond. I've been watching Ted Lasso. You'd think I'd remember that but that's the UK
Oh,
version.
that's right.
Richmond, Virginia. So we have 3 Southern ladies, and yes, Virginia is the South.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you for saying that, especially coming from the deep South. That I take that as a real compliment because usually people say to me, "So where are you from?" I'm like, "Virginia." They go, "Well, that's mid-Atlantic." I'm like, "You know what, honey? You need to do some of your history homework."
That's right.
Yeah.
We don't do that. That's not how we roll. And people have said to me, though, that Kentucky is Midwest. And I'm like, come again? I usually just say come again before I flip out.
Okay,
I want to make sure I
that's
heard.
frightening, actually. I'm a little worried. Where did they go to school?
That's what I said. I was like, I'm so sorry.
You know,
Karen gets it. She's Tennessee. She's solid.
Yeah, I'm Tennessee.
Yeah, you're
Ain't nobody
straight,
coming for you.
Nobody.
No questioning. I'm up here in Dolly country. I'm an hour and a half from. A lot of people say I sound like Dolly. Yeah.
You actually do sound like Dolly. I was going to say that. I was going to say, is that a picture of Karen behind you, Trish, or is that
I know.
No.
I keep patron Saint Dolly in the background at all times.
Yeah.
In Dolly
I get looks like Ellen, talks like Dolly. That's what I get all the time.
Have you met Dolly?
Oh, no. And I can't even tell you how much I want to.
She
I have.
would. So have I. And oh my God.
We got to hear your Dolly
I
story.
literally am so obsessed with this woman. I just want to be her. But I'm telling you, she would be like, "Oh my gosh, darling, we sound just alike."
She would. Wait, Debbie, you need to tell us the first time you met Dolly because this is. Well, let me back up really quick for everybody listening. We're going to give the whole enchilada of who you are, but Debbie has interviewed everybody in their Aunt Becky. She's hoop-de-doo smart. She'll like to pretend sometimes she doesn't have a degree from. She's genius. She's hoop-de-doo smart, but you are everybody's girl's girl. Like you have that's what makes you awesome is because you are whip-ass smart. I'll say it. And then you'll just let everybody kind of be. You're like a fox in a hen house.
Is that a good thing? I'm not sure.
Great. It's a great thing because you're just so incredibly and lovely and gracious and have interviewed everybody and goes toe to toe with everybody in a very disarming and authentic way. And that's what makes I fell in love with you because of that. But you may know her from The View, you were the very first, youngest, by the way, in the history of television. I'll sit here and be your hype girl.
Oh my God.
To ever be in daytime TV. And she got to work with Miss Barbara Walters, we can go on and on and on. You've interviewed everybody. Entertainment Tonight. You were at E on every red carpet, and then some. When I was over at Clean House, folding people's dirty panties, Debbie was interviewing everybody on red carpet. I was doing, basically high dollar cleaning lady stuff, and Debbie was doing. You had Daily 10. You handed all the carpets.
Yeah.
Fashion Police. I can go on and on. Then you went over to E.
Yeah. No, that was E. That was E.
I'm sorry, E.T. I had to add a letter. E.T. That's right. It was you and Ron and Juliana and Kit and everybody at E.
Yeah.
And then she swizzed on over to E.T. And that was you. And were you with Cameron or Mark at that time? Everybody was on at that time. Both. Okay. See what I'm doing here?
Crazy. And then Hallmark Channel with Mark and Cameron again.
That's what I was about to say. So when I tell you Debbie's been all around the world and and has ever interviewed everybody and we're going to jump all over the place. But I want to jump right in with the day you met Dolly because I am obsessed. So is your puppy.
Yeah, you hear that?
We are a dog-friendly podcast. If somebody barks, let it ride.
Yeah, right.
So talk to me, talk
Okay.
to Karen and I about the day you met Dolly.
So the day I met Dolly, oh my gosh, that sounds like the name of a show or a book. The day I
It
met
should be.
Dolly.
It should be.
Listen, I'm gonna give full credit right now.
Yes.
I've wanted to write this book for years because my girlfriend Katie Cook, if you don't know Katie Cook, she used to be the interviewer for CMT and CMT Insider for like 20 years. She's amazing. And she always said, people come to me about when they met Dolly because it's such a life experience. And she said, I really want to write that book. Because I called her, I still have the video of when I called her crying of the day I met Dolly. And
It's
so Katie
life-changing.
said, I want to write that book.
It's life-changing.
And so, when I write that book, I want to write it with Katie Cook because I'm not going to steal her idea. But it's a life-changing moment. So please explain.
Okay. It is, for some people it's Oprah. I mean, for Oprah, it's probably Dolly. You know what I mean? Okay. So it was home and family. And our executive producer says, we just got the get of a lifetime. And this is the after meeting. When a get in television means you just booked somebody that is like booking, like an Oprah. So we're like Jesus himself is going to come.
Jesus is coming on the show.
He's going to
That's
sit
right.
on the show and, teach us how to teach men to fish. Okay, so basically, he says, we got Dolly Parton. And I said, no way. No way Dolly Parton's coming on our little cable show on Hallmark Channel. No way. Yes, Dolly's coming here, and she's also going to perform. I thought, how in the world am I going to get through this? The only other person that came on the show that made me like, was Kenny Rogers.
Well, that's right up there. I mean, right there. Yeah, that's
Okay.
two icons.
Two icons of chills. So she has a Kenny story for us, whatever. So she comes in.
Did she do all the hours? Were you a 3-hour then or a 2 hour?
3 hours.
Then?
She came in. She did the segments with me, like we had craft segments. So not only do we do an interview, we opened the show. Dolly Parton's here. It's such a big deal. She came in, sat down, did the interview. We said, would you like to stick around? She's like, yeah, sure. Why not? I love cooking. I love baking, whatever. Came in the kitchen with me. Then did crafts. Was using a hot glue gun. I mean, it went on and on. Stayed and finished the show with us. Was so gracious and so lovely. Spoke to everyone. Her hairstylist was there. The only person that came with her was her hairstylist and her publicist. That's it. And they sat in the wings and they were lovely with everyone. She had lunch with us. Like she could have taken her lunch and gone in her trailer. She sat at the picnic tables. At one point, she started playing her nails to sing a song. You know how she does, like this?
Yes.
She does, yes.
That's how she wrote 9 to 5
Yeah.
even.
I said to her, I just love you so much. I'm going to cry. She's like, oh, honey, don't cry. Please don't cry. I'm just I'm just that girl from the South. I'm no better than you. I was like, you are, Dolly, you are. Okay, so then, cut to, she had such a good time. She talks to our producers and she said, well, I would love to invite you all out to Pigeon Forge, to Dollywood. We went to Dollywood and we shot a week full of shows with Dolly Parton. With Dolly Parton, yes. She was, I would like to think we're best friends. That's what I believe in my brain.
Debbie.
So, a week full of shows. She put us up at the Dream Hotel.
Dollywood Resort. Yes,
Yep.
the Dollywood Dream Resort.
Amazing.
Yes.
All of us were there. I mean, we took over the entire hotel. It was one of probably, in all of my years in doing television, one of the most memorable and one of the best experiences because there was no bouginess. She was not good. She had no ego. She had no attitude. She showed up on time. She stayed extra. She was gracious. She was loving. She was everything you wanted Dolly to be and more. And I think, ladies, you can attest to this, having done what we do for so many years, having been in this business, you meet a lot of people. And a lot of them who you look up to and you're so excited to meet, you go, oh man, I wish that didn't go that way. Because I had such a different idea of who you were, and I wish I just still had that idea. And it's not to say people don't have bad days. Okay, lots of people have bad days, and we're all human. But I'll tell you what, if Dolly's having a bad day, you sure aren't going to be the brunt of it. You sure aren't going to know, and she's going to deal with it on her own and not take it out. And she was just amazing. Invited us for dinner. We went to dinner with her and her hairstylist and one of her friends, like 3 nights. I mean, I really felt like I had got to know her. I mean, look, I'm sure she has a million people in her life, and she'll probably say, oh, yeah, I remember that. I mean, to me, it was magical, and it will always be one of my favorite moments having.
But that's what everyone says. Isn't that that's when you realize, like, she's our patron saint of the United States. I don't know what we'd call her. She transcends that. She's global. But that she really is this person that you go, how I want more of that. What would Dolly do? How do I give out more of that energy in this world? Because she's just, everyone's story has that at the end.
Well, I think there's no greater compliment. I think there's no greater compliment than she was exactly who you wanted her to be.
She's real, and she's not. She doesn't have to put on this persona, and she doesn't have these airs, and and with all the success and all the accolades.
But that's how she became Dolly.
That's
from
right.
being her.
Go ahead and preach on that.
If that's not a true testament to how people should be, you don't have to be hateful and ugly to get what you want. You don't. And as a matter of fact, I think when you are hateful and ugly, and if you do end up getting where you want to go, I think you're probably lonely and you feel pretty gross about the things you've done.
Yes, or it just puts a highlight. Like, if people always say, "Oh, what if you get success?" It just amplifies who you actually are.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe that to be all the way true, because you'll see people that get it, and you're like, "Why are you acting like hot mess?" Or people that get wrapped up in celebrity. I'm always like, "What? Why? Who cares?" Like, these are just jobs that are televised or seen. They aren't better than anybody else.
No, and I think you're right. I think people that are a hot mess to begin with end up even. Speaking of hot mess, what the hell?
He's about to take out. Let me tell you something. Let's make sure no one's breaking in your house, because Wyatt's on a tear.
Shush.
Wyatt, it's okay.
It's okay. Come here. It's okay. He's so big.
What kind of dog is Wyatt? You rescued him. You got to tell that story too. She thought she's getting this darling little nugget, Kay. Oh, you tell him, Wyatt. I'm talking nice about you.
Wyatt. So it was I don't know if you can hear me. It was an adoption thing, Karen, at like one of these like strip malls. And we were going for breakfast one day. And they had like, "Oh, come see the puppies in the little cages." And it was, one of these rescue places. Okay, so the dog, who is giant, and if he comes over here, I'll show you.
He's a beauty.
He's beautiful. He is very big. So they told me I was getting a Jack Russell. So we go over, and I see this animal, and he's tiny. He was tiny, tiny. But remember, he was like 1 month. He was, not going to be able to be adopted for another 2 months. So he was going to be at the shelter, whatever. Alexander's like, "Oh, I love him. And I said, "Okay, well, you know what? We'll fill out the application." I said, "There is no way we are getting this dog. I know what it's like in California to adopt an animal. You have a better shot at adopting a human than you do an animal in California, just so you know."
Well, at the time, now it's a little easier, but yes, you're right. They do put you through it. They put you through it.
They literally do an interview, Zoom. They do an interview at your house. They walk around the perimeter, make sure that there are fences. All kinds of stuff, like a background check. It's like fingerprint.
Which I'm thrilled about, by the way.
Yeah, I wish Tennessee did that, believe me.
It's wild how hard it is. I'm like, I'm confused. You would rather the dog live in a shelter than live with me? What's happening? But anyway, so they do the thing. I passed the test. So they call me 3 weeks later, and they're like, "Guess what? You got the dog." I'm like, "Wait, I did? Oh no, I got the dog." Now he's my 6th dog. I love animals. I love dogs. But after my last one, I was not interested in having another animal, because the last passing of my Siberian Husky, it was it. I said, I cannot live through this any longer. It just hurts too much every time I lose an animal. So Alexander was excited. We bring the dog home. Well, we go get the dog after that 2-month period. And I said, "Well, where's the dog?" And they're like, "Right there." I said, "That's not the dog. That's a different dog." It's like, no, this is the dog. I said, "Well, what kind of dog is it?" They were like, "Well, obviously it's Jack Russell, like we said before, but some other things." I was like, "I don't know if that dog's Jack Russell." The paws were the size of my hand. Okay. Within 7 months, the animal began to grow and grow and grow. Massive. So I said, "I'm going to do the DNA on this animal." And I go, "Look, I love pit bulls, but if it has any pit bull, you have to understand I'm going to have to give the dog back to you, because I have many little children around here. Pit bulls are great with adults. They're not the greatest with children, and I just don't want to be responsible for something. If something does happen to go wrong. Do you know what I mean?" So they said, "Okay, no, we understand completely." I do the DNA, and I literally looked up and just laughed. I was like, "Really, God? Really?" No, the dog is not any pit bull. It's Great Dane. Great Dane. Could not be more opposite of a
Than a Jack
than a
Russell.
Jack Russell, but it had the markings of a Jack Russell. So they just make it up. They just make it up so they can get the dog out of there. So it was Great Dane, Great Pyrenees, Siberian
That's
Husky.
what I was getting ready to say.
Yeah, Siberian
Great
Husky
Pyrenees.
and German Shepherd.
Oh my Lord.
He's a pony.
It's a show pony.
But he's so sweet. The irony is, you all are hearing Sweet White bark in the background. We're talking about Sweet White. He is so gentle and like a Great Dane, like almost docile and sweet, and just kind of like thoughtful when you meet him. And then you hear him bark, you're like, cool, cool, cool.
I know, because he's so big, which is really, it's actually lovely, because there will never be an intruder in this house.
No.
No,
And
ma'am,
a very
no way.
baritone bark.
Yeah, if he comes and sticks his head in, y'all, you'll see how precious he is. World's biggest Jack Russell.
Oh my gosh, there's another book. We should
World's
do
Biggest
another
Jack Russell.
children's
Yeah,
book. That
the
would
world's-
be adorable.
Debbie, you need to write that. World's biggest Jack Russell. It's almost like you got Clifford the Great Big Dog,
Yes.
and y'all got Wyatt the Great Big Jack Russell,
Yeah.
because he's kind of like the Buddy the Elf of dogs. Like in his heart, he's tiny. In his heart, he's this little bitty preshy
He
pie.
tries to sit on top of you. He thinks he's a lap dog.
I went over to the house, and he laid on that sofa
Yeah.
and took up more than half the
Yeah.
sofa. And he was like, I just am going to scooch in here and talk to you about your car insurance.
Yeah, right.
Like,
I can just scooch in a little bit more.
he was like, let me just, and he just thought he was so petite, and I couldn't get my breath because I love a big dog. I love how that, but he genuinely thinks he's tiny.
He does. Not
In his heart, he's a, in his
Well,
heart,
he
he's a
heard he
Jack.
was a Jack Russell so much he
believed
believed
it.
it. You know,
it.
it's all about the program.
Isn't that crazy? It happens to us too, ladies.
Yes,
It really
He
does.
needs to unlearn some things.
yes, that's right. We need to go back to his
Unlearn.
childhood when he was programmed that he was a Jack Russell.
They told him. They told Buddy he was an elf. He believed it.
See? I'm just saying we might be onto something. Debbie, you need to write that children's book. Just give me a shout out in the foreword.
Oh
and
my
I'll
gosh,
push it.
no. I'm going to say it was inspired by your podcast. And not only that, Karen just gave me the crux of the book. We had to
See?
be unprogrammed. The poor dog didn't understand what was going on.
Listen,
Those
we're here all week.
formative years are so important.
Speaking of formative years, do you love a segue? I love one. Debbie, talk to me about favorite job. I know they're different eras, but for you, your favorite gig. I'm sure they all were favorites for different reasons, but I
Yeah.
should probably ask favorite gig overall for you, or felt like maybe the best fit? Because I know we'll all have jobs that are cool. Like I'll have a show that I look back on, I think it was cool that I was lucky enough to work on it, but maybe wasn't the perfect fit. Like what felt
you
like
felt-
the biggest, like home. And I don't do that because of home and family. I
Yeah.
just, you know what I mean? It feels a little bit more like, this is the place.
I think, well, gosh, okay. Starting out, I'd have to say, I started MTV when I was 17. So that
wild.
when MTV was like, think about it, girls. When
Wait
you're
a hot second.
child,
Wait.
yeah.
17, you were working in New York at over
Going to
National.
NYU. Yeah.
Okay. So you were doing MTV News.
Not yet. I started as an intern and then as a PA, and then as a PA became a story coordinator and an associate producer. Like I went through every single thing. And then because MTV is notoriously cheap, gosh, it's not like it used to be. I wish we still had MTV like we did back in the day,
Oh
girls.
God, wasn't it a dream?
Oh, it was amazing. But they were notoriously cheap, so they didn't want to pay anybody. So they were like, you know what? Just go into that intern room. All right, she's cute enough. Put her on TV. And that's how they would do. And so I did the news they'd say, have her sit down with Kurt or with Tabitha. Just like that. Like it was wild. We had a shoestring budget to do anything around there. But the good news is you didn't have a bunch of red tape or bureaucracy and networks breathing down your neck. You had the opportunity to create whatever you wanted. Like
It was the Wild Wild
it
West.
was the
It really
Wild
was.
Wild West. And you'd go into we had meetings every Tuesday in this massive conference room on the 25th floor at 1515 Broadway in Manhattan. And everyone was invited. The interns, the PAs, everybody. It wasn't like, just the executives and the producers and the smart people, the people that have earned their way into this room. It was everybody because they genuinely wanted everyone's ideas. And it was one of the most fun, most creative places. Like I used to say, you can only fail up here. Like there's nothing you could do wrong. Like people were going to work like they were going to a concert, like with half baby tees and like tiny mini skirts and boots to their knees. I mean, I'm not even kidding. And you're like, what is happening? Are you going to the club? But that's how it was around there.
That's so fun.
It was so fun. Meanwhile, they didn't pay you. They paid you in concert tickets. I mean, so
right.
much so that I had to, after those fancy meetings I just told you about on the 25th floor, they would cater them and give bagels and stuff. After everyone would leave the meeting, you know, the people that actually got checks could feed themselves. Me, the rest of the interns, the PAs, we would have to steal the food that was left over just to eat that day. Not even a joke. Like, I used to walk to work from Bleecker and Broadway, where my apartment was, because I was going to NYU at the time.
Yeah, that's so far.
So far. I used to walk to work. I would have to leave the day before almost. I mean, it's no wonder that my dogs have been barking for 25 years. Like, literally, my feet hurt so bad. Because not only would I walk, but I was like, I'm not going to be caught dead at MTV's office if I'm not looking fly. So I'm like wearing heels and wedges.
Oh, God.
No, on the walk in, you wore the heels and the wedges. You didn't do a shoe change.
No, I didn't do like the rest of the New Yorkers did because I couldn't be caught dead walking in a white Reebok like the rest of them wearing their skirts. I was humiliated for them. They still do it. And now I understand why. I'm like, I wouldn't care. I'd put them on proudly now.
Oh, God, yeah. Save the feet.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was it.
So
MTV
that was where, because it all started there. Like it was, I thought that my dreams had all come true. If I had just stopped at MTV and just did MTV News or like danced at the MTV Beach House or like with Eric Nies on the grind. Do you remember all this?
Girl, do you know that I used to dance on the grind? That was my high school job. You and I are the same. Yes. I'm going to give you a little, we're going to go in the archives, y'all. We moved to New Jersey for the end of my last month of my junior year and all of my senior year of high school. And my mom said, go get an after school job. We lived in northern New Jersey. And I wanted to die because I just wanted to be back in Kentucky. And I thought, I'll show her. And so I saw they were casting an MTV, so I took a bus into the Port Authority, had to go down, National Video Recording.
Yes.
And Eric Nies was the host of the grind. And I went in and I said, I can't dance, y'all. I mean, like I could dance 1990s style because we didn't really dance in the 90s. And so I was like, okay, I'll go in. And I had my long dark hair down to my waist. I was very, like my hair, I had it just enough, like my hair was long, very dark. And just, that's what I brought to the table. And I actually had good style, thank God, because it was all about style on the grind. And they hired me as one of the regular dancers, and I was like, "Wait, what?"
Okay, we need to find this. We need to find the video.
Oh, we'll find. Just you could. I'm sure we can just go on the YouTube and go back in the archives, like 92, 93, y'all. So that was my high school job. I was in high school.
Okay, by the way, how cool were you? You were at school, and you're like, I dance on the grind. I don't know if you know the show.
But I went to school in upstate New Jersey, where all these kids were tickled to live in upstate New Jersey forever. So they were like, "You're going to do what? You're going to do what?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "That's stupid." Like they genuinely couldn't. No, they didn't understand. They didn't understand. Like in their mind, that happened in a different world. It didn't happen just 90 minutes outside of where they were living. Like that was where they were at the time. So I was like, okay, well, that's what I'm going to do. And so that's what I did for the next year and a half, you know, all the way up till I went to college.
Okay, well, it appears that we have something in common with J-Lo. Because I also danced on the grind, but only one episode. I was so excited. I don't know, Coolio was on. And
I don't know if I did. Were you, was it, wait, what year was it?
Girl, 1990. I did The View from 97 to 99. So it would have been probably right before The View. Because right after MTV,
okay, so then I would have just been gone. I'd have been in college at Arizona State. I did not even put all that together to right now when you said it, and I was going, wait a second. And that was, like you were saying, at MTV, they paid us literally in Starburst.
Yeah.
I'm not being funny.
Yeah, $75.
We got $75 and we taped 5 shows, y'all.
And
how often did you tape?
We taped every Thursday or Friday at National Video Recording. And when I remember being there, realizing like that's when I wanted to be on TV, in the sense that I was like, oh, I want to host, because I would watch Eric, and no offense to sweet Eric Nies, he's a lovely man, but that's not his gift set.
This is Eric Nies.
Yeah, it wasn't his gift set, okay. And now in retrospect, you know, I sit and think, oh, okay, but they literally ended up giving the dancers that were regulars the mic after a while, because he couldn't transition from song to song. And I also think too, he had other things going on in his life. You know, I didn't know him like that, but he was very sweet. And I think now I look back at that and go, I can't believe I took my butt into Manhattan. Like I went into the city and did that as for $75 in Starburst,
Yeah, but you
and I'm
know
not
what's
being funny
awesome?
when I say that.
Like you followed your dream at that time. I think that's one of the best things about youth. One of the best things about youth is you don't even understand that there are limitations that potentially someone could say, what in the hell are you doing here, young lady? You do not belong here. You don't have any credentials. Why do you think you should have this job? In your brain, that doesn't exist. It is such a beautiful thing to have a clean slate and just be like, I can do whatever I want. Of course I can. Why couldn't I? If she could do it, I could do it. And if more adults, I feel like, if more of us, when we get older, could hold on to that, I think we'd be a lot happier. And I think we'd actually be able to fulfill so many things that we want in our lives. I think we are our biggest obstacle. It's all those stories and stuff that we tell ourselves that come from somewhere. It comes from growing up. It comes from experiencing.
Yeah, that limit us. Yeah.
That limit us. Truly, if you could walk into the world like Buddy the Elf, back to Buddy. He literally has it's almost like, knowledge is power, but also, there's something to be said for, ignorance is bliss.
Well, yeah, naivete helps you to take chances. I mean, when you get older and you start going, well, that doesn't make sense. I mean, they wouldn't pick me, or I'm too old. When you don't even think about it and you're just naive about the process or whatever, you just go for it. And sometimes you get picked.
Yeah.
It's so true.
And most times you get picked because of that. You don't even understand that power that comes with that. And you don't even understand like the levity of it and like this openness in your soul and energy that people feel, and they go, gosh, I don't know why, but I like that person.
That's so true.
So
oh
true.
My gosh, Debbie, that's so true. It is. It's the lightness of being. It's that lovely moment where Karen and I were talking about this earlier. It's that weird moment where you line up with the frequency. Like what's put in you is not put in me. What's put in Karen is not put in me. And people always go, well, you both work in television or you both work in comedy. That's not the same. Everybody's by design a different human. And what's been put in you wouldn't be put in you if you weren't meant to achieve it. So eventually you line up with the frequency, for lack of a better word, that you're meant to be at. And all the noise goes away and it's just like, this is why I guess, Kobe Bryant or LeBron James gets in a flow state when they play. Yeah. Whatever it is, it's just a very flow state. So the least amount of resistance, magic.
Yeah, exactly right. It's not thinking, it's just doing.
That's
and just being who you're supposed to be without thinking about all the other things that could maybe not go right.
Yeah, we beat our own selves down most of the time.
Yeah. So MTV, I feel like, was incredible for the reason that it was so brand new and so awesome, and oh my gosh, I have made it. I'm going to stay there. I'm going to live. This is going to be my first job, my last job. I'm going to stay forever. So obviously, as you know, my career took many different turns and different trajectories. And then when I got to Home and Family, I felt like truly I was home, because I thought, wow, everything I've done has led me here, and it just felt so good. And
that was such a special show.
It was like a unicorn. I say that all the time. It's once in a lifetime that you get a show like that, and that everything feels right, and everybody loved it, from the people who worked on the show to the people who were on the show to the decision makers in Hollywood to the network. I mean, everybody just thought this is such a beautiful show. And I used to say, even when you'd come there, I'd be like, shh, don't tell anybody, because I was so worried that as soon as it got out, it would be ruined.
Well, that's it. To tell y'all just from an outside perspective, and I was lucky enough to come in and guest host, or if I did a segment or whatever it was, I do like little chunks. Debbie got to be on a show that was on, think of this every day. She got to drive onto the lot at Universal Studios. So just to think about this is from a kid perspective. You got to drive on to Universal Studios every day onto a set, which was a working physical house. So the physical show took place in different rooms in a house. So from an outsider's perspective, you'd drive on and you'd be parking in like Old West Town. Like I'd park my car.
Or by Jaws.
Right, or by Jaws. So or you'd park by Jaws and walk over to your trailer and go. And I was like, is this real life? And then you'd walk onto this amazing set, and Dave, what was Dave's last name? Your art director, Lowe, Dave Lowe, the art director, production designer at Home and Family, is one of the most special humans. He could create anything out of thin air, and was just a joy to be around. He's grumpy. He's kind of like being around Oscar the Grouch in the best kind of way. But he was so talented, so everything came alive. Whatever you could dream up, Dave would make it alive. So then you've got this kitchen aspect of the show where they actually did cooking and live segments, and you got to eat. So from a, again, outsider coming in, you'd get Debbie and Mark, and then later Debbie and Cameron. But Mark Steinus is one of my favorite humans on planet Earth. And I want to squeeze his whole head.
He's such a good human. He's so good.
Good human. He's such a good human. So you'd go on the show, and it's 3 hours live to tape, which a lot of people don't realize. Comedians understand because we have to stay at that level for the amount of time we're on stage. Debbie and Mark had to stay at that level for 3 hours with multitude of guests. It was like watching Disney's Fantasmic, watching y'all having to move from, let's go in the backyard and someone's performing. Then there's randomly a fashion show. Then y'all got to do a dang craft. Now we're out. I was like, what? It was amazing to watch y'all because most hosts can't sustain 3 hours of live TV like that. Really, genuinely. It was magical. And you were so authentically happy to be there, because most, when people go to commercial break, they're usually like, someone get my water, get me my phone, I need to come, blah, 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 blah. You were not that ever, never. And that's what was such a joy to watch.
It was such an incredible place. I'm so happy to hear you say that you loved it as much, because it was that awesome. I felt like, honestly, I was like, I've just been given a gift. And I know how fortunate I am to have this job. And I know how fortunate I am to have this experience and be around all these people. And I would try to explain that to the young kids who had just come on. And I'd say to them, okay, I need you to understand, it's not like this everywhere else. And they'd be like, yeah, but when you're young, you're not listening to anybody. Yeah, I know. And I'd be like, no, I'm telling you, because they would be like, you know what, I'm quitting. And I'm going to go somewhere else where I feel like I'm more appreciated, and my writing is going to be used more in the shows. Where like these are like interns and PAs, whatever. And I was like, you know what? Who do you need me to talk to? I'm going to give you a glowing recommendation. You go out there, you spread your wings, and you enjoy it. And I wish you all the success in the world. They'd be back in 2 weeks, and we'd always hire them back. It was like literally like the mom and the dad being like, okay, go move out. All right, you want to come home? Come on.
Yeah.
Like,
you want to live on your own? Go ahead.
Go ahead. And so,
what, you mean I have to pay for toilet paper? Like it's that.
Yeah, but it was like that. And then, they eventually would go out and try to find a job, and then come back and be like, oh, I get it now. I was like, yeah, it's not like this. And to this day, that show was canceled 3 years ago. Oh my gosh, I love that show. 3 years ago it was canceled. And to this day, I still talk to them on a weekly basis. And they're like, it's not the same. It's not the same. Like, it never will be, honey. You just need to take that and compartmentalize that and realize that was a very special time in your life.
And a lot of times we don't really appreciate the moment in time that we're in until we look back on it. But it sounds like you did. It sounds like you knew when you were there that it was really special.
But I think I had to get there, Karen. It took me all those years, from the 17-year-old dancing with Coolio on The Grind and Trish, to The View, to E, to E.T., to Insider, to all of it, before I could get to a place and go, oh, now somebody else's dog. They're all talking to each other.
That's Jax.
Jackass. I love him. I call him.
But it takes, you guys doing a whole podcast about it. How you gotta live and learn. And
that's right.
And I like it's interesting because people go, would you change anything? No, because I like every single season of life.
And it took it all to get where you are now.
Yeah.
I mean, all of us. It takes all those things to bring us to the people we are. And I have a question about The View. You were 17 when you went on The View?
21. I was 17 when I started MTV.
Okay, MTV. Okay, so you're 21 at The View. and you're on the first season with Barbara Walters. Well, first of all, I don't even think I had a view at 21.
Exactly. Isn't that the truth?
So I'm impressed with your maturity to be able to go on and talk with Barbara Walters at 21 years old.
That was frightening.
Was there any intimidation there?
Was there any intimidation? Every day. Every day. I felt like I was going to throw up. I was petrified. But the point of that show was that it was going to be 5 different women, different generations, different backgrounds, different views. So they wanted to get, a 20-something, a 30-something, a 40-something, a 50-something, then Barbara. And they did a great job doing that. So, they had lined up, okay, we have an attorney, we have a comedian, Joy, who's a divorcee, we have Barbara, who's Barbara, we have Meredith, who has been this,
Meredith Vieira.
Incredible. One of the best people I've ever met in this business still. More integrity, just wonderful.
And we have the same birthday.
You do? No wonder I love you both. Look at that. Look, it makes sense now. Makes sense. So, she was an award-winning journalist, had been doing this for years, and they wanted a young one. So by definition, I really did not need to be anything except young. That's it.
Well, that takes the pressure off.
It takes the pressure off. Well, you think. So it takes the pressure off. So we have this interview audition sort of thing. This also happened by fate. Okay, I was working at MTV. My roommate also was working at MTV. A friend of ours was going away to be a weatherman in Idaho because they wouldn't hire him in New York City. He had just out of college. He really wanted to, be in news. He gets the job. We have a going away party at someone's house uptown, some fancy pants house uptown. So my roommate's like, we have to go. Come on. We have to go to the going away party. I'm like, oh, I have school tomorrow because I was going to NYU and working at MTV simultaneously. So I'm like, oh, gosh. Oh, I'm going to be so tired. She's like, come on, we'll just go for one drink. So we go uptown to this party, and this man, James Moore, says, hey, doll, you there in the chocolate brown from head to toe. It was the new black.
Darling.
Yeah, chocolate brown was the new black. That
Love the 90s, by the way. It's right back right now.
I may have been broke as a joke and have to walk to work, but I would save my pennies to go to that Strawberry down on the street corner and buy myself a chocolate brown outfit. Anyhow. So, or Rampage, whatever was,
Loved your Rampage.
Okay. So I said, yeah. He's like, I would love for you to come in and audition for Barbara Walters. And I was like, what? Are you okay in the head? I also had pink streaks in my hair because going back to that story I told you before, MTV was notoriously cheap. So they would just take someone that they thought was remotely cute and put them on television. So Todd Oldham and Cindy Crawford.
I loved it, Todd Oldham.
Todd Oldham.
House of Style,
yes,
honey.
Baby, yes. Todd Oldham and Cindy Crawford were hosting House of Style. They walked through the room with all the PAs and they said, Debbie, you'll do. You have long blonde hair. Come on. And they dyed my hair pink with Kool-Aid, like the old punk rockers used to do. And I thought, again, I had won the lottery. I'm like, this is fabulous. Guess what? Kool-Aid doesn't come out of your hair. For nothing. For nothing. Okay, so now it's also about to be like snowing in New York City. So this girl walking down the street with hot pink hair in the snow, like you can only imagine.
In heels.
In heels. In heels, because I would not put on a tennis shoe. So I'm like, okay, sir, why in the world do you think someone that looks like me would have any reason to meet Barbara Walters? Oh, just come, whatever. I'm like, yeah, I chat him up. I leave. My roommate stays. The next morning, I'm running out of the house, brushing my teeth, like basically with my toothbrush in my mouth, going to school to get to school, and then I'm going to take the subway downtown, okay, at this time, all the way downtown, because I would take the subway from time to time because I had to make it to work. Take the subway, not from downtown to uptown to MTV Studios. I get there, and she's like, where have you been? They have been calling from ABC. I'm like, what? She's like, you need to go over and meet Barbara Walters and Bill Getty right now. I hadn't even showered, just FYI. Hadn't showered. I was wearing.
Because we were feral back in the 90s, and we did it, hand stamps and all.
Yep.
Proud of you,
I
Deb.
was running to school and then running to my job where I got $75 a day. So I was panicked. And I said, what do you mean? They're like, well, they've been waiting for you. You told them you're going to come. I said, oh my gosh, that is a real testament when somebody tells you something and someone says something like, he was a man of his word. He wasn't just talking a bunch
for
of
sure.
smack at a party.
Right.
So I'm like, how am I going to get there? She's like, listen, just take the communicar, because she was one of the boss's assistants. So she's like, I will put on this budget. Take one of the company cars. So I got the company car up to ABC. Okay, I'm wearing a tiny little black miniskirt, like A-line, boots to my knees, and a baby tee that has John Travolta's face on it, and it said Barbarino.
Amazing.
From
I love
Welcome
it.
Back.
P.S. I wish you still had this outfit.
Yeah,
From
yeah,
Welcome
really.
Back Kotter. Okay, and I'm carrying a purse that's a bowling bag. But
Those were so chic,
it
though,
was,
at the time.
It was Kate Spade. It was Kate
Yeah.
Spade. She had just come out with and I again had no money to eat or take the subway.
But you
Well,
looked
let me tell you
amazing.
something. I would save for that bag. So I show up, and I'm now going up the escalator at ABC. I'll never forget this. And people are cutting their eyes like, what is this? How did she get in the building? Is it a singing telegram? I mean, they didn't know what to make of me.
Buddy the Elf.
I was like, Buddy the Elf. That's me. So I get to the office. I'm like sitting there, and I'm so embarrassed. I mean, I'm legitimately humiliated. And now I'm like, well, what can I do? I'm here now. Everyone has seen the clown come in the building. I'm here. So now what am I going to do? The pink hair, the bowling bag, the mini. I mean, it was a real comedy of errors. So I get in there, I sit down, and Barbara's not even there. So I'm talking to Bill the whole time, whatever. She pops her head in. She's like, oh, hello, I'm Barbara. And I'm like, yeah, I know who you are, blah. Okay, so anyway, it was, at that point, I had nothing to lose. I had nothing
That's
to
right.
hide. All I could do was be me in that moment, because I'm here now. So I did. I couldn't fail, because they just asked me about myself. And then they said, come back in 2 weeks to do this audition. So I came back in 2 weeks. I sat down with that first group. The first group of 700 or 800 people who came through there was Barbara, Joy, Star, Meredith, and myself. And that was the group you saw on TV. It was wild. It was wild. So then when I'm starting, to go back to your question, Karen, in a long roundabout way, when I'm on that set, I'm thinking, what in God's name am I doing here? Why did this woman want to hire me? I mean, it was, I didn't even have an opinion really myself at 21 years old. What do you really know except for your little microcosm of the world? So, I knew what it was like to work at MTV. I knew what it was like to live on your own. I knew what it was like to go to college, what it was like to be a daughter and a sister and all those things. But, once they started talking about world politics and things that were so above my understanding of the world at that time, it was beyond frightening.
Oh, I can't imagine. Because I know even as a comedian, I could look back and I didn't even know what I was talking about when I started. I didn't really have a point of view. I didn't have anything to say. And I can't imagine being with Barbara Walters and those ladies and having that pressure. So,
and I would try not to talk. I would be like, I'm just not going to say anything. And then Barbara would kick me under the table to say stuff.
You were always by Barbara.
Yeah, I was always by Barbara. She would kick me or pinch me under the table to talk. And then sometimes when I was talking and I was talking too much, she'd kick me to stop. I'd be like, I mean, it's no wonder that SNL saw it as so comedic, because I was a young girl and my life was unfolding on live TV. It wasn't live TV, it was live. So if I would be saying something that perhaps Barbara did not want me to continue, and she would kick me or pinch me and I would stop talking, it was like, people were like, well, why didn't she finish her thought? Is she having a stroke? What is going on? Like, it was wild, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I really wouldn't. It was such an incredible learning experience.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. What a learning experience you had from 17 years old. I mean, you were there's no school or nothing you could have ever gone to got you the experience you got.
Nothing.
It's amazing.
Nothing.
I remember how innovative The View was at the time, right? When you look back to when that came out, which was 97, was 97, right? I think 97
to 99. Yep.
And in my world, I had just left college to move to Los Angeles, and I thought you were the neatest thing. So when you look at it from a completely different seats, I remember thinking, I already knew who Meredith Vieira was because I love a stern journalist, and she's just, that's Meredith will like slap your hand, but you don't know she slapped your hand.
I know, it's so
And
true.
you're like, that's why I love Meredith, because she'll give full clap back, and you're like, did she say something mean or am I uneducated? Like Meredith Vieira was Meredith Vieira. So I'm watching it. I didn't know who Star was. I peripherally knew who Joy Behar was because of comedy, because I always wanted to get into it. And I was like, oh, I know her, but I didn't like deep dive Joy. And if you don't know Barbara, you've been in a ditch.
Correct.
And you came on, and I thought, oh, somebody that represents me, right? Same age. And I thought, so when you'd say stuff or they'd talk about stuff, you're like, nobody's listening to that because that's not where we're at right now. And I was like, thank goodness she's here.
Right.
So at the time, divisively or not, because we've lived through so much, we've all become producers basically and content creators now. But at the time, no one had done what you just said beautifully, the generations of where we're at in life.
Yeah.
And I was mystified by the fact that you'd be like, what are you even talking about? Because I would be going, I don't know.
What
are we supposed to be talking about this?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting you caught on to that. Gosh, I appreciate you so much, Trish. Anyone who was our generation felt the same. And they would come up and stop me and be like, oh, what is it? I was like, I don't know. I'm trying my best to represent us. I'm not sure what's happening. I feel like I'm running for office out here.
I was so pro Debbie because I'd always think, what are they talking about? This crazy mess. It's daytime. Like I loved daytime TV. I wanted to always be on daytime TV. And then it changed. And then I was like, no, I don't want to do daytime TV. But you were part of the reason that I thought, I want to do this because you so beautifully held your own space. And we're like, not everybody's talking about that. Y'all need to calm down. I'm like, what Debbie said.
Well, what would end up happening, though, it's interesting because what would end up happening now behind the scenes, it would be where Barbara ran in these very bougie circles. Barbara is bougie, baby. I learned all about Manolo Blahniks and I mean, everything, every type of crystal you could possibly imagine and everything from Barbara and the perfect china, etc. Bone china, everything. Anyhow, and Chanel suits. Anyway, basically I was like Eliza Doolittle getting tutored by Barbara. So she would run in these circles and her friends would say, who is this child you have on the show that doesn't know what's happening? Ho, ho, ho. And it would make her feel uncomfortable. And she would come and say to me in my dressing room, my friends are saying your hair's too blonde. My friends are saying that they don't like your outfits. If you go back and watch some of these shows, you would see my hair progressively get darker and me start wearing sweater sets. I began to wear sweater sets and pearls. I thought, who is this human? But it was because Barbara was doing what people told her they should be doing. Okay, cut to. And then she would try to shush me if I'd say things like you related to, because her friends would say, why is she saying these things? Cut 2 years later, when I went back to host a gazillion times with them, you know what she said to me? I feel like I made a mistake. Barbara does not make mistakes, and she don't talk about making mistakes. And she said, if as opposed to squashing what I was so afraid of, if I had just sat back and let you say it, I think people at home would be like, oh, that's my daughter. Oh, that's my sister. Oh, that's my niece. Oh my gosh. They all talk like that. They all think that. They're all the same age. They don't understand what the hell they're talking about. And then we could have used that show as a way to not only talk about the hot topics, but also to educate the youth and be like, okay, one day I promise you, you're going to be where I'm sitting. But right now I understand and I respect what you're saying only because you haven't had the life experience. And she copped to it. She said that. And then she said, I only wish I had hired you in your 30s, baby. It'd have been a much better fit for the show. And she's right. She's right.
But when you said that, when you were telling the story of her friends saying that to her and then you were in sweater sets, I'm thinking to myself, that's a mistake.
Yeah.
So the fact that she went back and acknowledged that, because if she's just going to do that, she didn't need each generation.
I know.
That's right.
Why get you to begin with?
Right.
The pink hair, the baby tea, all that. That's what was working for a different voice.
Yeah, and I
feel like Bill saw that.
Bill
right?
saw
Don't
that,
you think?
and Bill said the same. He was like,
Bill was the executive producer
Yeah.
of The View, y'all, who, if you don't know, and literally a cornerstone human being who sadly
Passed away
is no longer with us. But yeah, I would think that he saw all the magic in pink hair in a bowling bag and was like, yes,
this is
more
it.
of this.
Yes, yes. And I think truthfully, also looking back at it, I'd said to Barbara, I said, Barbara, they did that because they were jealous. Like, I think a lot of her friends, she was far more successful than a lot of the other journalist friends that she had. And I think they were jealous. And I think any way they could knock her And you're not going to be able to knock Barbara, but I can knock the people
No.
and your choices that you made. Oh, that's who you chose? Why?
Yeah, but
So
they
then
made
it's
her
a
doubt.
dig.
They made her doubt.
It was,
And that's how they knocked her.
that's how they knocked her. It was like a roundabout dig.
Ooh, can you? And how beautiful. I mean, like I look at your career and you're just getting started, sis. So we all have Debbie and I go through these seasons where we call each other, and I think this is important to have in life, right? Karen, and by the way, Karen has to deal with it with me too. So just it all happens in every version. But where we'll call each other and be like, "Are we leaving this business? Are we quitting? Are we going to become tchotchke sellers on Etsy and move to Europe?" We we all have it.
Yeah.
It happens. But when you look at what your body of work is, you realize that you've got all the skills. God put it in you at such a young age. There's no other thing you were. It wouldn't have been as, I don't want to say easy, but it wouldn't have been as non-resistant for you to be who you have become had it not be who you were meant to be.
Yeah.
You know, like you have seamlessly gone. I mean, think about from The View to red carpets, out the noodle to, and dealing with everybody at the highest level.
Woo! My God, that's a whole other thing. I mean, talk about egos.
And I can imagine.
Child.
I know. When we talked about Dolly showing up with nobody, these people would roll in 20 deep and expect you to know the last time they sneezed. I'd be like, oh, I wasn't aware. I did that movie in 1975, and it was I'm like, oh, okay. Sorry, I apologize. I didn't know that work of art. I mean, the crazy. Yeah, but I mean,
Isn't that wild?
a lot of people that are in this business are drawn to it because they need all the accolades and they need everyone fawning over them. And to me, I feel like perhaps something was missing in their childhood where somebody didn't love you enough,
Right.
or something happened where you had to become a narcissist because you were neglected or something.
Yep.
Usually
Yep.
there's a piece of the puzzle that is missing.
And what people don't realize, and when you are a good journalist and then you do it in entertainment, which is this little kind of like weird pocket, I always find. If you're a journalist in entertainment, it's this weird pocket because you almost get known for who you're interviewing as being known as an interviewer because people trust you to, not only does the celebrity trust you to not go crazy mess and ask rogue, put people in a ditch situation. So the celebrities will come to you. Therefore, whoever you're representing trusts you to be the mouthpiece for that entity. I.e., let's just do an E. People know if you're putting on an E red carpet, Ryan Seacrest is not going to go rogue and start asking stuff about, salacious, nasty mess, right? Same with the Debbie. If Debbie's on a carpet, she's going to have a giant glass of Act Right. Have fun, but not be like, what in God's name just came out of her mouth?
Not be hateful.
And
like I will
not
never
be
be hateful.
Yeah, mean-spirited is.
No, you could be funny and you could joke. You know this. You guys are comedians. But your comedy is not coming from hate. And anytime comedy even comes from hate, the audience doesn't like it. Like, you don't like it.
Nope.
You're like, you could poke fun at people and make jokes and this and that, but it's not a hateful joke.
No.
No.
And that's what people don't realize is such a skill set and why certain A-listers, and that's why people stay at the top usually is because of, like a Dolly, you are a little less ego and you've really managed what it means to have longevity in the entertainment business. And I say the same for you. There are very few people that do what you do at your level that stay at your level because there's a certain giant through line of professionalism and respect. And you have a lot of people now, this is like a master class. You need to do your own master class.
Oh my gosh, I would love that. How fun would that be?
Oh, you'd be
That would,
so.
you should.
You should so.
Right now, I'm knee deep in Martha Stewart. So, ooh, I love it so much.
I know. I love them. If y'all don't have Masterclass, we don't get paid for this. Maybe they'll sponsor the show. Masterclass is
amazing.
genius. James Clear and Chris Kardashian and Martha Stewart are great ones.
Oh, I'm going to do Chris next.
It's so good. And Amy Poehler.
Amy Poehler is
bet.
fantastic.
I love her. So
Loving
So
it.
fantastic.
But
Yeah.
you need one in true, I really believe in it's entertainment journalism because it's such a niche, like you've done so many things, but that's such a niche, cool. You've never made it seem annoying. If that's the best. And I say it like I'm Julia Roberts and have been interviewed by you. I don't mean that. I
No,
mean just you are so entertaining and you make other people engaging that aren't accessible.
I love that you say that because one of the things, okay, again, like when you say you get into a job and you think, oh, is this the job for me, whatever. Okay. Also remember, I was coming from The View. So coming straight from The View, and then being on the other side of it. I was the one that people were interviewing. It wasn't the other way around.
Yes.
The entertainment journalists were interviewing us. So then suddenly when they say to me, we want you to do this, I was like,
huh?
Okay. I was like, all right, yeah. Okay, I'm going to do this. But a lot of people, which you guys probably don't know, but a lot of people looked at it as like, oh my gosh, oh, poor thing, she has to be an entertainment journalist now. So it was almost like a stigma that I was no longer on The View, but suddenly had to interview the people on The View. So it became, it was something I really wrapped my brain around. I said, no, I'm not above any job. I never have been. I'm an immigrant from Greece. I didn't speak English till I was 5 years old. My parents came here with 2 suitcases. They had no money. They didn't speak the language. They sent themselves to night school. My father and my mother are so proud of what they've accomplished to give their children a better life. Who am I to say that, oh, I'm better than this job or better than that job? And who are you to say that I'm not good enough? So that is where I will always come from, because that's who I really am, you know? So I said, no, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it in a way where I'm going to not make it cheesy, because before I always felt it was a bit cheesy. I always felt it was about shiny and flashy and cheesy and, hey, look at me, woo! And I was always like, oh my gosh, I'm a little bit embarrassed to that. So, and I also promised that I would take my same morality through all of it. I'm not here to make you feel bad about yourself. I'm not here to make you scared to sit down and do an interview. I'm here to celebrate you. I'm here to make you feel comfortable, and I'm here to make you real to the person at home. And there are jobs and shows that I won't call out right now, but that would say to me, here are your marching orders. These are the questions. You write what you want to write and write your intros and your outros, but we need to know, who is she going out with now? Why did she divorce so-and-so? Was there an affair? Was there, okay, so what about your alcoholic mom? How's that make you feel? Like, there were things where and I was like, y'all are ruthless. This is disgusting. And I don't feel comfortable doing that. So, you know what I would do? And I think, Trish, to your point, this is probably why everyone would sit down with me, and they still will. I mean, I'm giving my secrets now. But I would say, and to any shows who I've worked for, they're probably like, I can't believe you did that. Before they'd mic us, we'd come in, we'd sit down, and I'd say, listen to me. I'm going to show you this right here. You see that? I don't want to ask you. They want me to ask you. They told me I have to ask you. And if I don't go back without asking you, if I go back without asking you, I'm going to be in big trouble. But here's my advice to you. I will ask you. No, it's not coming from me, and you don't have to answer me. And they would be like, thank you. I said, no problem. I said, you see them? You see what's coming? Just so you know, the others are going to be fun and light, and you could say whatever you want. 9 times out of 10, they would answer me.
Yeah, because you were honest and upfront and put them at ease about it.
9 times out of 10, they'd say, well, you know what? Yes, it is very sensitive, but you know what? I'm going to tell you. And I'd be like, oh my gosh. I said, why did you answer? They're like, well, because I figured, you got to have some answer. I was like, oh my gosh, you're really... So it was like this interesting relationship that I would have with whoever the person was that I was interviewing, that I feel like they also saw that I had respect for them and I wasn't trying to be gross.
And don't you think it probably helped you some that you were on the other side for a while?
Yes, so much so. Because I also understood, I knew what that felt like. And I would never want to put somebody in that position. The way it felt when everything did come crashing down, and I was the first one to be voted off the island on The View. That's what I say. Like, I was the first one literally to be fired from The View. The original cast member, and also the first one gone. And after me, it was like a floodgate. Everybody was hired and fired. But even Joy was hired and fired twice.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, she always jokes about that. Okay, so anyway, I know what it felt like to have the press breathing down your neck and sitting in front of your apartment in New York City. Like, you can't escape in New York City. You can't, you have to leave the building. Like, the press there, and them saying mean things to you, and then them asking questions that you're just like, just stop. So and for years that would follow me around. For years, people would be like, well, why did you get fired? What happened? And there's just certain things You're like, can we let it go? Can we move on?
Yeah.
So yes, Karen, it gave me an empathy because I had lived it, and I was like, I'm not going to make someone feel like that. And I'd always wonder, don't you feel gross? I'd think to myself, to the person asking me this, but don't you feel gross about yourself? Like saying
Yeah.
these things? Yeah.
I think it's really just a true testament. We could go on for you for 2 hours, but I'm just going to, normally we do all these questions. I'm going to only ask one question to end this episode.
Are we done?
We're done.
Oh, man, ladies.
Come back again.
Oh, Debbie, you're
because
coming back
I
again.
just want to
We
come
could
sit in
do
your kitchen and have some coffee.
Done.
We didn't even scratch the surface, so we've got to do another episode with
Oh,
us.
yeah. No, this is Debbie part 1. We're going to have a Debbie back for a Debbie part 2. Without Wyatt, her sweet puppy, cussing in the background.
Seriously, if we could understand dog, I know there are a bunch of 4-letter expletives that he was dropping.
Oh, and he's now taking a nap because he was sick to death protecting you. But my one last question, we'll ask it again when you come back on, is what do you know so far?
Wow. What do I know so far? I know that every day I wake up, I know less than I did yesterday. Yeah. And
I get that.
yeah. And I know that I am so grateful for every emotion, for the heartache, for the love, for the, the sadness, for the grief, for the depression, I'm so happy that for whatever reason I was blessed and chosen enough to be part of this life and this planet. And it blows my mind how fortunate every single one of us is, no matter where you are in your life, to been chosen to be here. Like, what an amazing world. And I know that every day, every single day, you can choose to wake up and change your life. You can choose to wake up and be happy. You hold the key. Nobody else, you. And it took me a long time to realize that, listen, we're young, we blame this, we blame that, our circumstances, everyone's circumstances are different. But at the end of the day, you are left with yourself, your brain, and your heart. And I have learned that kindness, no matter what, is the best way. It just is. I've learned that we are here on this planet for 2 reasons, and 2 reasons only: to love and to learn. And it's pretty simple. Just do it. Just be you. Just be comfortable in your skin, no matter what it is. And I have
Debbie
so much more to learn.
Oh, honey, we're right there with you, and we're gonna have you have to come back on. You have to come.
I will do whatever you want. I love you. You're my sister from another mister. We're talking about.
I know.
I have loved talking with you and getting to know you, Debbie. This has been a real pleasure.
Oh, it's been a pleasure for me. I could just listen to you talk all day, Karen.
I know. Karen's just magic all the way around. But we're going to do it again, girls. We're going to do it again. And for everybody listening, thank you so much to listen, subscribe. Debbie, where can everybody find you? You're at you do it.
Well, I can't exactly put my last name because no one would find me. It's too long. So
no, that's why you were smart to do
Barbara
this.
even told me, if you had kept your Greek name, your first Greek name, we would have never hired you. It was too long because my Greek name is Vespina. I said, thank you very much, Barbara. I am Debbie M. So at I am Debbie M on Instagram, on Twitter or X or whatever the hell the kids are calling it these days.
Yeah, right.
Those youngins, the Generation A, Alpha, whatever the hell they're called. And also that is my website as well. And
at I am Debbie M.
IamDebbieM.com. And you can get some of my skincare, some of my Greek skincare over there on the website.
Is it called Ikaria? Is that how you pronounce it?
Ikaria. From the Blue Zone,
Ikaria.
right?
Blue Zone, that's
Yes.
right, Ikaria.
That's why Debbie looks so darn good. I need
Yes,
to get in
it
there
is.
with Debbie's
The
magic
Grecian
because
formula.
I'll take a Grecian formula, honey. I'll take whatever it takes.
I'm going to
I'll
send you
Greek it
girls
up.
some. Didn't I send you some, Trish?
No, honey, I'd be dipped in it right now. I'd have done a half an ad.
All right,
if
how
I was dipped in
rude and
yours.
offensive of me.
It's
I'm
okay.
offended as a
Honey,
woman
it's
and a Southern Christian. All right. Okay, I'm going to get
I love you.
both your home addresses, and I'm sending you a package of Icaria.
Done. I always
Done.
take good skincare, and if it's Grecian and I look like
You're
you,
going to
sign
love
me
it.
up.
I promise you.
Sign me up.
Maybe I'll make $3 at some point along the way because it's so expensive
Preach.
to make. But I'm going to tell you something. It's one of my favorite things I've ever done. Even though it's like how much it costs to make and what you make in return is like chips. I don't care. 'Cause
I
I'm so
understand.
proud of it. I'm so proud of it.
Oh, I'd
See,
love to
this-
try it.
Yes, we're going to try it, and that'll be on episode 2 when Debbie comes back again. On part
Yes,
two.
we'll talk about your skincare.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll come on with a face mask on. Don't threaten me. I'll do it. You know who you're dealing with, sis. We love you, girl.
I love you guys so much. This was so fun.
Yes,
Thank
it was.
you.
Thank you so much. And I can't wait to do it again.
Me too.
I know.
I'm
we're
sorry
going
about
to do it again
Wyatt.
soon. Oh, we don't
Oh,
care.
no.
Here, I'm gonna
Never
stop it.
apologize to us about a dog, ever.